All right, I've got a question for you. How many times do you blink in a minute? And I don't mean wink, and I don't mean Hannibal Lecter who never blinked. That's kind of scary. I mean normal people like me and some of you out there. How often do you blink in a minute? Well, I'll tell you that women blink a little bit more than men. Women blink 19 times a minute. Men, about 11. So let's say an average of 16 times a minute. So does that mean that 16 times a minute, your world goes black? That interested people back in the 1820s. They really wanted to know the answer to that. So there was a gentleman, a scientist by the name of Joseph Plateau. He did some experiments. One of the experiments was he stared at the sun and then he looked away. And he tried to figure out how long that image was burned into his mind's eye. So he stared at the sun and he looked away. He stared at the sun and he looked away. Well, two things happened because of that experiment. One, he went blind. Two, he discovered that we retain an image for roughly 1/16 of a second. This is called persistence of vision, meaning that what we see before is the same after the blink. Okay? Well, that got me to thinking, what if it isn't just what we see, it's the way we see the world before and the way we see the world after. And let's take the blink to mean the bumps and the bruises, the heartaches, the troubles that we have. Do we see the same before as we do after? That is persistence of attitude. Earl Nightingale said that attitude is the magic word. Bart Starr, the great football player, said that next to love, the most important word in the English language is attitude. In my career in theater, I know that attitude can make or break a production. Have you ever heard of Peter Best? Peter Best, there was this band in the early 60s, made it really big. They were called the Beatles. They had John, Paul, George, and Peter Best, until he got fired. We know Ringo, but right before the Beatles made it big, they fired Peter Best and hired Ringo. So Peter Best missed out on all this. He was asked about that, and he said, I am much happier that I wasn't a Beatle. That is $1 million attitude.